Hello.
Hello, welcome to this week's Tya Talk. I'm not David, I'm Anne-Marie Young, and I'm here with Sandra, who's one of our Tya coaches. And we were discussing a minute ago, weren't we, about sort of like health, and with the new year coming up, I'm certainly thinking about like I've got my mind health sorted this year, and I'm looking to get my physical health. That's my intention for next year. So we thought that would be a great subject to discuss today. And Sandra, you mentioned earlier that you've had quite a few health issues throughout your life.
Yes. And mindset is everything when it comes to health. Um, I was diagnosed with a chronic disease when I was 18 years old. And my mindset really helped me through that. And it just depends on how you look at things. And I always did kind of look at it as a gift. I know that sounds really radical for people, that this would be a gift. But lucky I had that mindset because it got me through a lot, when I was going through it. And it's funny enough, when the doctors actually diagnosed me back then, they told me there was no cure for this. And it was actually chronic fatigue syndrome. Back then, it was called yuppie's flu when they first diagnosed it.
Yep, I remember
It
that.
changed names over the years, right? And when they had diagnosed it, they said to me, sorry, there's no cure. You're just going to have to deal with it. There was no medication, no cure. You just dealt with it. And I took one look at them and I went, watch me. I'm going to cure myself. Like, don't tell me I'm not going to cure myself. And so I'm a stubborn type, but that's really good because it has helped me over the years. If I wasn't so stubborn, I might not be here right now. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so it's an interesting journey that I went through with the health. Uh, this went on for years. I actually only resolved it. I guess I wasn't very good solving the issue, but I had done so much research. I was looking originally for the magic pill, so to speak, or something, in foods or whatever that would really help with this. And the mindset just kept going because I just thought, well, at first I said, watch me cure myself. And I did everything in my power to do that with all the research I did. And then that didn't seem to be working too much, although I kept researching. And then I decided, well, you know what? It's my new normal. If that's what my life's going to be, I'm just going to accept it and I'm going to keep going. And I was really successful doing that for a long time because of that mindset. Um, there are different degrees, depending on what you have in your health. And for me, unfortunately, or fortunately, again, I see it as a gift. They had told me when I got, you're prodded and poked for years when you have an illness. And at Women's College Hospital in Toronto, when I had gone there for some help, uh, they looked at what was going on with me. And with chronic fatigue syndrome, it's an interesting diagnosis because it's one of the only things where you can it affects all parts of your body. So your endocrine system, your nervous system, immunity, right? It affects everything. So you don't necessarily have all the symptoms when you have chronic fatigue syndrome. Like sometimes you can have
Right.
adrenal symptoms, sometimes liver symptoms, and there's different things that happen in your body. And when I went to women's college, and after all the prodding and poking, they said to me, they came very concerned, right? Three doctors in a room, very concerned, almost pale with me. And they said, you've got everything in the spectrum of chronic fatigue syndrome.
Wow.
We don't know how you're walking. We think you should be in a wheelchair. And this, I'm laughing now. I laughed back then too. And again, mindset, right? It's just how
Mm.
my mind was. It was very strong from a young age. So it was with me the whole time. And when they said that I should be in a wheelchair, I looked at them and I said, if I was in a wheelchair, I wouldn't be living life. And I don't mean people in wheelchairs don't live life. Don't get me wrong there at all.
Yeah.
It's just for me, I was able to walk. I didn't have to be in a wheelchair. And so I decided that I'm not going to let it take me down, so to speak. I'm going to keep going. And I'm just going to do the best I can with what it's given me, which was, lack of energy and all these things I went through. But later on, as I went through that journey, I started realizing that this was a complete gift. And I know a lot of people don't look at their illnesses as gifts. Again, it's all about mindset. It's not for everyone. Everyone's journey is different in this, and you cope the way you cope. So for me, what I decided to do was I just thought I started looking deeper and I started realizing, well, these are the gifts it's given me. It's allowed me to really look at my life as everything is a miracle because that's all I really had, right? So I would go out, and if I was going for a walk, I would see everything as a miracle, the tree in front of me, the sidewalk that somebody created, just everything was beautiful to me. And that I really was appreciative of because it did allow me to see life in a little bit different way. And it also brought my spirituality to me. I really believe that if I did not go through the journey, this whole journey with my health, I don't know where I would have been. I kind of picture myself like climbing the corporate ladder, only caring about money, right? Materialistic
Oh.
things. Again, everything okay. If that's, if that's your jam, that's okay. There's no judgment here whatsoever. Everyone has their own journeys on this. But for me, looking back, I just thought how wonderful that it completely changed my life trajectory, having this illness. And I just accepted it. And the more I accepted it, the better I got, funny enough, right? Um, the other gift I think it gave me is being here right now. If I didn't go through this whole journey, I would never have found David. I would never have found Tya, and I wouldn't be here talking to everybody right now. So it really is a gift. And I'd like to say I am cured now.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it took a long time. It took a long time. Literally from, it's going to sound like, what did you do, Sandra? But the time goes by so quickly. Because literally from age 18 to about age 50, I was ill. And it was something about my mom's passing that really brought it all together for me. My mom, when she passed away, I realized I just want to live life. So it took it to another level on my mind and my mindset on it all. Yes, I was coping with it. Yes, I was accepting of it, and even grateful sometimes for everything that occurred. But with my mom's death, she kind of taught me how to live at that point. Because I thought, well, I don't want to. I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to actually feel good in life. And again, another click in the mind happened, and I don't know. I changed my diet drastically and went into keto, which keto really helps a lot with that. Your food is always your friend if you're going
Yeah.
through any illness. And it was just some switch in my head where I just thought it's time now to live, right? And that's what I did. And the more I had this acceptance, the appreciation of it, the better things got for me. And now I feel like completely fine. So then I got into Taya, which is, amazing that I was able to find my way here. And Taya's taken it to a whole other level now. So
Has it?
when I was entering Taya, I thought uh, I had done all this work. I had done so much spiritual work, and I really wondered, is Taya going to help me? Maybe it's a repeat of everything I had done. But something kept pushing me. I knew it was good for me. I tend to listen to that inner voice that's going to say, do it. And I did. And it did. It changed everything. It makes things, how do I put it? It's funny because Taya, standing for trust your abundance, it's actually made me to trust more,
Hmm.
beauty of it, that yeah, everything is okay. And now I see the full picture, right? You see the full picture on why this all occurred. um,
Yeah.
you could see all the little nuggets that you got, all the lessons from it. And it's amazing the synchronicities of it all, how one thing led to another, to another, to another. And it just kept me moving. So all those low points, all the times that I had to go back into the hospital for something that was going on, there was always a nice nugget in there that just kept pushing me forward. And in the forward push, again, it brought me to where I am right now, which is, in my opinion, from what, my energy levels and the way comparing the way I was, I feel like I'm in full health. My mindset's great. Now I'm moving forward in other things. And it's the confidence and a knowing all is well. Everything's okay. And if something does happen, I know I've got my tools to move forward in it and to keep going. And it's a beautiful journey. You got to just keep moving forward, and we do have the power. I believe we have the power inside of
Mm.
us to cure whatever we feel we can.
Wow.
It's in that mindset.
That is such an inspirational story. And like you said, you mentioned it was a gift that you had this illness kind of thrust upon you at the very early stage of adulthood. Had 18 years of a life, and then that suddenly was changed. But it was your mindset. But you really explained why it was a gift and the fact that it changed your path.
Right.
What was your mindset before the illness, and how did that develop, one after illness and then more sort of with Taya in developing that mindset?
Yeah, so funny before I mean, again, I was pretty young, right? 18 years old. So
Yeah, it's yeah.
before I got sick, I just had that. I would say I'm Canadian, but the American dream. We have a lot of American TV and everything, so you always hear about the American dream. And for me, that was getting a really good job, moving up the corporate, like literally moving. You got to think of the times too, right? Moving up the corporate ladder. That's what it was like back in the 80s
Yes.
when you were doing this. That's the goal, right? And that's what I wanted. At one point, I didn't even want to get married or have kids. That's what I had told my mother. I thought I was a go getter. I was extremely independent. Just get moving, 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 moving forward into things, doing some crazy stuff, into some extreme sports and things like this. Had a little bit of a wild side to me, and as I said, I really see the gift in this, because had I continued in that journey that I was on, I don't know where I would be. It probably still would be just as beautiful, because every journey is unique and it's beautiful in its own way, right? We all have our
True.
own,
Yeah.
and we learn from it. But my eyes, I'm really grateful to. It sounds so crazy. I know when I say it, I'm thinking people think that sounds nuts. I'm grateful that I got sick. There you have it. Because again, it brought so many gifts my way, uh, and just seeing the world different than other people. Other people would be in a lineup in a shop, 10 minutes, and they're grumbling about it, thinking it's the worst thing in the world for them. And I just saw it as time to just reflect and look around and appreciate what's around you. So it really does change your mind to that gift to me, on how I think children see the world, right? So I always kept
Yes.
the childhood awe of everything. So again, as I said, that continued on. But with Taya, what I found is it gave me a confidence knowing that I have the tools to be able to move further through this. And the tools where I'm so confident in who I am, where I am, knowing that all is well, and knowing that those down times that usually would take people out, and it used to. I mean, I admit before Taya, when I was really down, I panicked. And I would think, um, first of all, when I got better, I started panicking, thinking, am I going to reverse? Like, if I continue down this downward spiral, am I going to reverse my health? So there was a fear
Yeah.
there of perhaps if my mindset's not intact, that the health issues would come back. Uh, Taya took that all away. So now I know it's like for sure. It's like it reinforced everything, that yes, it is definitely mindset. And now again, I feel so lucky that I had that way of thinking beforehand. It was just in me somehow. But I see the beauty of it now. Taya has pointed out why that helped me, and has also let me know that this is a way of thinking that will push you forward, and those down times are never anything to worry about. You have to appreciate them,
Hmm.
move through the emotions that you need to. I know when I do it now, when I'm in that downward spiral, I journal a lot, ask myself a lot of questions to figure out why I'm there, because there's always a gem at the end of it, and I believe
Yeah.
now wholeheartedly that down time is to have you look at that, to have you look deeper, perhaps something that uh, you're not recognizing or you refuse to look at when you're
Yeah, that's very true.
unhappy, right? So when you're down,
Yeah,
you're so desperate to come back up that you're forced to look at why is this happening? And that is one of the first things I ask myself. It's why are you down here? What is it trying to show you? And then you just start going deeper and deeper. And that's what I do in my journaling. And at the end of it, you always feel so much better. And I'm happy to say that with Tya, see, I wouldn't have done any of this before. I wouldn't have looked at that downtime. I would have just, like I said, panicked over it and not being
right.
able to move. It would have just numbed me out and I wouldn't have been making any movement. And I would have been for days going, oh my gosh, when's this going to end? Oh my goodness. Um, there's none of that now. It's just complete confidence. And I know sometimes, us Tyans, I call us Tyans, the Tya people, when we're in that downturn sometimes, um, we tell people that we appreciate being there, like that it's somewhat enjoyable being there. You have to kind of experience it to know what we're talking about.
It sounds so bizarre unless you
It
feel
does,
it, doesn't
right?
it?
So I remember the stream told me that. So in my first, when I joined boot camp, and I had the session with the stream. The stream actually said that to me. They said, Sandra, you're going to enjoy going down your spiral and seeing the nuggets that are there for you. And I, in my head, are going, what are they talking about? Like, how is that going to be enjoyable for me? I thought this was absolutely nuts, but I mean, I knew they knew better than me, right? So, yeah, no, they were bang on. They were accurate. Leave it up to the stream.
Yeah.
Of course, they're accurate, right? And I did find that. That's why I laugh over it. It makes me chuckle. Like when I go down, I always remember what they said to me, and sometimes I'm like, are you just doing this because you like to find, it's like a treasure chest at the bottom of that DTS time? Is
Yeah.
that why you're doing it now? Are you just creating these DTS times just to find those nuggets and get yourself, higher and higher and higher on your journey? It's quite interesting, but I love the fact that I don't have to ever worry about this again. And I don't, I just know to go through it. And I go through it so much quicker now. I know you probably experienced
Mm.
that too, Anne Marie, where it
Yeah,
just
very much.
so quickly now. Like I think before I could probably go like 3 days to a week in that downturn. Now I can move through it sometimes within a couple of hours. Sometimes I'll give myself a day.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a bigger issue and I need to feel it and go through it. But it's such a wonderful feeling to know that there all is well. You don't have to worry about what's happening. You just have to embrace it and and just get to the bottom of it. Sometimes you won't too. Sometimes maybe there isn't anything at the end of it, and that's okay. It'll maybe come later. There's a beauty to this, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's yeah.
You're going to get that clarity at some stage, be it straight away, month, year down the line. There'll be something that comes out of it that you will understand why you've been there and you'll have that appreciation. But I just want to sort of mention to the listeners out there who maybe aren't so familiar with our tire tools. So the tire practice is where we connect with source. We live in it's a very mindset practice as well, isn't it? You are in radical appreciation for the good times, the perceived bad times, and the tire tools that you mentioned. I mean, there's so many. I always say I've got my toolkit, and my friend imagines me literally having one of those carpenter's belts full of these tools. And I go, I've got my tools, I've got my tools. But you get given these tools, and you find out what you like, and you find out what works for you. And you've mentioned journaling, and journaling is definitely one of mine as well. But it'd be meditation, just that relaxation. And I think when you're going through boot camp, something I learned personally was self care and how important that was. And I think you touched on that as well, is actually looking after your health and knowing your limitations and taking that downtime that you now need, because it's not always apparent. And I know Christmas is coming up and Christmas holidays. And I used to get ill every Christmas because I'd be on the go, on the go, on the go, on the go. I'd stop poorly. Um, and just identifying that you need time to yourself before that, don't let your body break before
Right.
you get there. So what self-care were you doing in between sort of your episodes of being high, being low, feeling sick, feeling healthy?
Yeah, it's you definitely have to follow your body. You have to have that intuition. You have to tap in, and you have to honor what your body is telling you. Early on in this journey, I didn't know that, and I would push because of my stubbornness. I would push and push and push, and honestly, I think that delayed things. Right? If maybe if I hadn't have pushed so much, I could have maybe I would have been cured at 30 instead of 50. But yeah, no, you have to. Now I know that. Again, it took years, and Taya really shows that too for me, that intuition is everything. And just following, sometimes, if you are feeling run down, maybe the next day do less. Like, 'cause sometimes the reason I say the next day is sometimes we're at work, we have the kids, there's so much going on, and you're feeling it on the day. It could be one of your busiest days of the year that you're feeling it. So that's fine. If you still have to go through that day, honor that, but make a note of it. Just don't ignore it. Just make a note of it, and then perhaps the next day, the day after that, whatever it is, you can give yourself a little bit of time just to be and to relax more. Maybe cancel an appointment even if you have to do that. But that is so important, to take care of yourself and have that intuition, because if you don't do that and you keep ignoring it, you don't know if you're going to bring something to you. Because if you don't listen to the first whisper of your body, it'll
Hmm.
start to yell now. And you don't want to get to that point where it's now really knocking you on the head trying to get your attention, because that usually means now something is manifesting in you. And I do believe that our health conditions do manifest in our emotional bodies first and then
Yeah,
come into the physical. And that's
yeah,
why you have to be aware of what's happening. Even mental health, people talk about physical a lot for this, but mental health is there too. If you're finding yourself really stressed out for days on end, and you know that you need a break and your body's kind of telling you, like if you find yourself wishing you can be in a locked room somewhere, like, with no noise at all, that's probably a sign that you need to slow down or do something joyful, like go for a walk in nature, lay out in the sun, whatever it is that brings you joy to get you back on track. Even what one of the things I know that we do learn in Taya is to honor that thing, those things, like there's meditation that everyone can do, and if you can't do a meditation, perhaps you can do something that's I say mindful. Sometimes some people say mindless.
yeah.
When you go for a walk, or you're doing the laundry, or you're washing dishes or whatever, people say that's mindless tasks, but I see it as they're mindful tasks, because even the simple process of just making, and I do this a lot, and I preach this a lot actually to a lot of the people I coach. When the people are feeling really stressed out, a lot of the time you just need to focus and be mindful. You just need to be present to help yourself get through. And so I do this tea ritual where you just make a tea, but you do it like you're a 3-year-old child, where everything is incredibly miraculous making this tea, right? So you picture the water going into the actual kettle, and you see the beauty of the water flowing through. And you're just mindful of over every step of that. I have a beautiful kettle that I love to use, so that as soon as I see it, I already feel better. But then, I do this ritual where I'm putting the water in, and I'm seeing what the water looks like and the beauty of that and how miraculous that is and how it hugs the actual pot. It's a glass, you could see through it. So it's a glass pot. And then
Oh,
just
wow.
putting it on the stove and watching it boil and thinking about how amazing that is, that we have. I know people don't consider that technology today because it's so old, but the fact that we have an oven that you could just switch on either gas or electricity, and you could just switch it on, and
Mm,
in the olden days, we had to light a fire to get this done. So just being mindful of all those things, and then, actually making the tea and having that scent come up. So it's just really being in the moment, and being aware of what the task is, what you are
yeah,
doing. So if you don't have time to meditate, everyone has time to be mindful. So
Yes.
everyone has time to just, even if you're at work, having a bad day at work, just maybe having a cup of coffee, that can be your mindful time. But and to me, the gift is just really being in that moment and seeing what's in front of you. So what the mug looks like. Perhaps think about the person who created the mug, the process of
Mm.
that. It might sound crazy to some people thinking I'm not going to do this, like this is, all these little details, but I'm telling you, it just helps calm down your whole system. Helps you in appreciation, because as you're doing this, you're actually appreciating the things in front of you. And
Yes.
also, just it just slows everything down for the day, so that I think even your breathing starts getting balanced because you're in the moment, right? You're aware.
Yeah, I get that completely because I'm always living like an hour ahead of myself. It's like, oh, I've got this to do, but I've got this to do. And sometimes it's just, you just need to refocus and it changes your thought process because you're focusing on something else rather than what you've got to do or what's stressing you out. It just focuses your mind on what you're doing. And even if it's just like, I'm walking to the door. And I literally can talk through when I'm like, notice that I'm getting like that. I'll talk through what I'm doing. So, like, I'm walking to the door, I'm putting my hands out, I'm turning the door handle, I'm opening the door, and literally just takes your thought process down, calms you down, and just gets you back into that moment. And just having those little tools, they make the world a difference. It doesn't sound crazy to me at all.
Yeah, no, it does really make a difference. And it's funny how when your mind isn't thinking about everything going on, if it just is focused on something,
Mm,
it's amazing how all of a sudden these things pop into your head too. Like maybe there was a solution you were looking for in something that you couldn't find, and weeks have gone by, and then in that moment of silence, all of a sudden it pops into your head. And
yeah,
that's the beauty of it, right? Because now you're connected back to source, and that's where all the nuggets are, is when you're connected to your source.
very
So,
true. And that goes back to sort of what David says and the stream says in the fact that get that low thought activity. If my husband like says I'm going to do the ironing, I'm like, no, I'm going to do the ironing because that's actually now my self-care time because that's my time to just reflect on things. And in the shower, and all these ideas come into your head when you are in that low thought activity. So that self-care is good. But a lot of people, and I know myself included, certainly before my tire training, used to feel guilty for taking that time for yourself and that self-care. Did you ever feel like that?
oh my gosh, yes, 100%. Especially when I had my son, you do feel that mom guilt is real.
Oh, I feel the mum guilt. Not so much now, but certainly, yeah, I get
Yeah, as they
that.
grow, it gets a little less. Um, yeah, it's funny because that is something that we're taught. Don't you think that that's something that we're taught through media and things, that, oh, it's selfish to take care of yourself. It's selfish to take a minute. You should give, 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 especially
Yes.
as women. And I'm not trying to make a judgment here, but a lot of the advertising sometimes is catered towards the women,
Yeah.
and they they can make us feel bad about so many things. You don't look good enough, you're too big, you're too
Oh,
skinny,
yeah.
you're too this, you're too that. And by the way, you have to be a super mom, and you have to do this and you have to do that, and you never think about yourself. Like, how
Mm,
dare you ever even do anything for yourself or think about yourself? And it took a while for me to get to the point where I just started realizing it is not selfish to just take care of yourself, a few days a week.
yeah.
And to maybe ask, I know for myself, to ask my husband, take care of my son, so that I can go for a walk. Like, well, this is when he was younger. He's 19 now, so I don't have to worry about that. I could just say, okay, bye, I'm going for a walk. But when you're little, and I used to feel, a little bit guilty, like I said, when it first started. But I realized, and we know this, that if you're not good, how do you take care of your family? So if you're not in a good
Yeah.
headspace, if you're not good physically, you can't take care of others anyways. So it is not selfish to just take care of yourself and take some time off. And I don't mean you have to go away for 2 days and leave your family. You could take, like, your quiet time in your house.
Hmm.
Perhaps there is a room that you like to go in that can be silent, even if it's just the bathroom. You could take a bath.
Yes, I love taking a bath when I need that time to myself. It's the water and the scent, and I'll maybe put a podcast on, or I'll just sit there in peace and
Yes.
quiet. But yeah, just it's just that time again, low thought activity and that self care because you can't pour from an empty cup,
No, you
can
can't.
you?
And it's funny, I do use my bathroom time well. When I have a shower, I know that sounds weird, but use my bathroom time. When I have a shower, it's funny. I do this thing where I see myself at a spa, and it's a spa treatment.
Love
And
that.
most of it starts after the shower, like when you're putting your favorite cream on or whatever it is. I love that cleansing of the shower, just going over you and just rinsing the day away or whatever, depending on when you have a shower. I tend to have it before bed, so I love just like releasing the day into that water. And then when I get out, I literally just, again, it's mindfulness. It's just staying in that mindset of
Hmm.
I'm going to really luxuriate in this, and every moment putting on the cream, doing whatever I'm doing, after that, it's just I just see it as a spa treatment. And I do have music. I always love the music in the background, and same as you, like listening to the podcast too. It's great, and it just helps you unwind, move up the spiral. And
Hmm.
especially that's what I like to do it before bed, because then I'm completely relaxed. And especially if I do listen to a podcast, usually the Stream of David, then I'm ready. You've got a nice mindset for bed too. So when you actually get into your bed and you start falling asleep, they do say that you will dream about the last things that you were thinking of that day or that you watched that day, whatever it is. So if you listen to something inspirational, then you've got this beautiful night, and you could dream about miracles and moving up your spiral, and how, how your
Oh, I've got
future can look.
chills. That's beautiful. But I think also with taking that time for yourself and looking after yourself, it increases your own feelings of self-worth, which again impact your mindset because tire is a mindset practice after all, and there's a lot of stuff saying out in the media about mindset, not even tire related, of how important it is,
Right.
isn't it?
Yes, yeah. No, there is a lot there, research is showing that the mindset is very important. I know even early on when I was doing the research for my illness, trying to cure it, um, somebody made me aware of a book. Um, I think the book, I don't remember the title. It was something like Mindfulness Through Depression or something like that. And I think it was one of the first times I kind of heard the term mindful. And it was an interesting book, very in science. There was a lot of science at the beginning, and then they kind of showed you how to do this. And
Hmm.
it was about some research they did with depression, where they found that people who were practicing a mindful practice, and in this case it was meditation, it was a meditation practice. When they Because depression, could be up and down. It could be like a roller coaster ride, where sometimes you're super depressed, and this could last years, if it's chronic depression, and sometimes it could be months. And then there's a lull where you're not depressed anymore, like somehow you get yourself out of this and you're no longer in that depressed state. So in this book, with the experimentation that this person had done, I think his last name, it's Capit Zinn, I think that's the last name. um, Anyways, the research he had done, he found that the problem with depression is once you've had it and you know how horrible it feels to be in that state, it's very difficult to not go back there when you start feeling that way.
Yeah.
And it's because people go into a panic because they know that it felt terrible. And so when those feelings start coming up again, um, it, uh, it sends people in a spiral, in a panic. And then the depression just gets there, because you're in this panic thinking, oh my gosh, I can't go there again. And that panic itself causes depression. So what he found is he had three groups. One of them were on medication. One of them, was doing the mindfulness, and I think one of them they were just left to their own devices. And in the mindfulness group, because the people were aware that this is something that is not necessarily going to last, that you can be down there and it's okay. It's funny how it comes back to Taya. We learn that in
Yeah.
Taya, and we were just
Yeah.
talking about it, that the DTS time you learn is not a big deal. It's for a reason. It's to push you forward, to make changes in your life. So we and then we learn to be confident in it, and embrace it, like we talked about. So he kind of did that work in a way in this too, without knowing. It's similar work. So what he found is the people who did practice the mindfulness, when they got that feeling, they knew nothing was going to happen. It wasn't the end of the world, and you don't have to stay there for days. So the people who were practicing the mindfulness were able to get themselves out a lot quicker and didn't go
Yeah.
back down into the depression. They were actually able um, to deal with their depression and move through it, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. That was one of the first times I had heard that term, because this is we're talking years ago. That book's pretty old, and that's why I can't remember all the details. Sorry, I feel
Sorry.
terrible about this book. Anyways, so that was the first time I had heard of it, and that's where it finally clicked with me, that I started thinking, okay, because I actually did think it was selfish to self care,
Yeah.
for years. And so when I read that book, I went, okay, yeah, no, I need to do this, and it's going to be something that I will incorporate into my life. And that's when I started fooling around with meditation too, trying to do it as a daily
Yeah.
practice. And that's the other nugget, I have to say. I know we're moving everywhere on this, but it's all related.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
for years, and I don't know how you were with this, Anne Marie, but for years, I really wanted to be a meditator. I wanted to have this meditation practice where I was, meditating for an hour every morning when I started my day. And I really strived for this, and tried to do this. And I would do it for sometimes 8 weeks, sometimes longer. And I would always fall off the bandwagon. And then, of course, beat myself up, because that's one of the things I used to do, was constantly
Well, were
judge.
you almost making it a chore by
Well,
having to do
right?
it?
But see, I didn't have those tools to know better. So yeah, no, I was hammering, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
You have to, has to be part of your practice.
Mm.
Anyways, so the beauty of this now is, for the first time, all those years that I tried to do this, and I would always fall off the bandwagon, so to speak. With Taya, it's just part of my practice now. It's like no
Yeah.
effort, nothing. I do it every morning before I start my day, along with some other, tools I use, and it's amazing. Like, it's amazing that I could do that now. So I am, doing this, like I said, on a daily basis, and I do notice that if I do happen to miss for any reason, my day doesn't seem to go as well as when I actually do the mindful practice in the morning, do my meditation, my
Mm.
intentions for the day. Things go so much smoother, I've noticed, when I do that.
Yeah.
So, and then that's motivation, right? So when you notice that, you don't even, it's not even really motivation. No, I want to do this today because I would love this day to go really well. So you just
That's
automatically do it.
Yeah, that's lovely. I mean, the fact that it's part of your routine now, and it is that time to yourself and looking after yourself and doing what you need to do. And I know I also love to meditate now, and but I used to, yeah, like you always wanted to be sort of like into meditation, but I had this perception that it had to be, I was connecting, I was getting these visualizations, I was connecting with God, and it doesn't have to be like that. It's just that time for yourself to just, I feel stuff. I do now visualize a bit more, but I'm not really good on visualizations. But just feeling that connection and that calming influence. And yeah, it's a lovely way to just de-stress, set your day up, and it gets you in the right motivation to keep going forward, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. Yeah. And have you noticed
Mm.
that, Anne Marie, that when you, like, if there's ever a day that you skip for whatever reason, that you notice your day isn't as smooth? Have you noticed that for yourself?
I honestly don't get to do, I tend to do it mainly in the evening, so it doesn't set my day up. But if I wake up and say, for example, the kids don't want to get ready for school and it's a bit of a frazzled morning, the minute I go to my office to like start my day, I will then do a quick 5 minute before I start work, 5 minute meditation, because it just puts me in that focus. So, like you, I tend to do 'em mainly in the evening and journal, and then get my mindset for that night's sleep. And I do find if I don't do that, then my mornings is one of those frazzled mornings because I haven't got that positivity in my kind of sleep and kind of wake up in the same mood. So that's what I've noticed. But we're getting a lot of comments on here. Hi everybody, it's great to see you. Um, now I saw something a minute ago and it just said, oh yeah, Tyra is a mindset practice to live a life without fear and judgment. So we're talking about mindset and we've spoken about like fear and judgment, and you touched on that. So I wanted to go a little bit more into that. So how did you, with your health condition, release that fear and judgment?
I kind of, I believe surrendering to it, and which to me is the appreciation that we talk about in Taya.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually just surrender to it. That was the only way to cope and the only way to calm myself down sometimes, because I've had
Mm.
some pretty interesting things happen over the years. Um, for a long time, I was very concerned over my family and actually the effect that this was having on my son, because he had to see some things that, little kids, unfortunately, um, probably shouldn't see when it came to the medical stuff. But again, we learn that that's his contrast. And so he probably picked me as a mom, maybe to have these things in his life. So, yeah, so I can give you one story. So there was about the surrendering. um, so because of all the medical stuff I had gone through, one of the things that would happen to me, and this isn't unusual for people, but mine would go really sky high, is blood pressure, right? So, there's this thing called white coat syndrome.
Yes, I've heard of that, especially when you're getting your blood pressure taken.
You go to see the doctor and your blood pressure goes crazy. Well, mine used to go really high where the doctors would be concerned sometimes. But I monitor my blood pressure at home just because of, their reaction to me when I'm in an office. And so I just make sure it's okay. And I've also done the halter monitor thing a million times because they wouldn't believe me sometimes that my blood pressure is fine at home. It's just with you, okay? So and it's always been normal, right? So even when I used to get those things done, it was normal. So I bring that up for this story about the surrender, how, like, why it's so important to surrender to it. And again, to me, I'm going to kind of change it to appreciation on this part, because I do see
Mhm.
them going hand in hand. I was having a major procedure done, and I would say this is a major procedure, and it was to save my life. And I was really scared. And this happened a bit later. So I think I was in my, yeah, so it would have been in my early 50s when this was occurring. And I was really scared and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And I didn't really know what to do about it. But the day of the operation, so I was very nervous the whole time, and I kept telling myself, just stop thinking about it. Just it's going to be okay. Like, I kept talking myself down. And then the day of the procedure, I thought I was going to be super nervous, and I thought I'd be, my blood pressure would be through the roof, and then that caused more anxiety with me because I thought, okay, so if my blood pressure's through the roof, they decide they can't do the surgery because of my blood pressure. So all the dialoguing, right, and all the judgment was going on, and I had all the stuff in my head, in fear, all based in fear.
Yeah.
And when I got to the hospital and I walked in, I thought to myself, you know what? I don't have any control over this. I don't really have control over what's going on right now. It's here for a reason. I don't know what the lessons are yet. And again, remember my mindset. I always had this thing where I don't know there's got to be a lesson here. There's got to be a reason for this.
Yeah.
And I just surrendered. And I remember just thinking, "Ugh, just let it go. Just let it go." And my whole body just relaxed. And so I walked in and I thought, this is in the surgeon's hands now. It's going to be fine. Um, And it was amazing. So, of course, one of the first things I walk in, and the nurse calls me when I go in. She has to run some tests, and one of them is blood pressure. And I'm thinking, here we go. All right. Where I had already decided I'm surrendering to the process. I'm not going to fret over anything. It's going to be fine. My blood pressure was textbook blood pressure that day.
Wow.
And I knew, I was laughing when I saw it. So, like, textbook being, 120 over
Yeah.
80. I don't ever have textbook blood pressure, right? Even when my blood pressure is normal, it's going to be under that, right? It'll be like 178 over 17, sorry, not over 117, that would be high. Over, like, let's say 78, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
Um, anyway, so it would be it's never bang on the 120 over 80. So she did the blood pressure, and here I am. I'm still nervous about it, thinking, oh, here we go. And she doesn't say anything. She just puts the blood pressure cuff away. She starts writing away, starts asking me more questions. And here I am. I couldn't even think straight because I'm going, what was the blood pressure? Right? Because I'm so concerned over this. And then I had to ask her, I said, what was my blood pressure? And she told me, she goes, it's fine. It's 120 over 80. And again, I've always also had a source connection. Like, I've always been very close to my source connection. I kind of looked up and went, thank you. They were completely taking care of me. And that's what the surrender was to.
Yeah.
I felt taken care of. I knew that this was part of my journey. I had to just let it go and just be and just go with it. And it all worked out. Like, here I am. The surgery went fine. It all worked out. Um, but I always remember that because it was so shocking to me that just that surrendering what it can do
Hmm.
for you. Because why am I going to resist it? Why am I going to fight it? It's there now. So, and I created it somehow, right? We create these
Yeah.
things. I created this for some reason. So if I created it, and we learn this in Taya, if you create this, then you can undo it. Or create something different, right? And undoing it, you're creating something completely different.
Yeah.
So yeah, just full appreciation. Again, it sounds like a crazy concept. You have to sometimes have, not sometimes, it should be all the time, full appreciation for every
Everything.
part of your life that you're in. And if it is a medical issue, you have to have full appreciation for that. There's a reason why it's there. And I practice that now. Even a little headache, if I have a headache, if I'm, if I've got a shoulder out, whatever it is, I now will just go, I appreciate that I have this pain. It's probably trying to tell me something. Sometimes I'll tap in and ask, what's this trying to tell me? And I always get an answer when I do ask my body, what is it? What are you trying to tell me? And I find when I honor it, so it's not necessarily paying attention to it like that's all you're concentrating on is this one thing, but it's honoring what's going on. I find now if I have a kink in my neck, like I said, a shoulder headache, something, if I honor it and appreciate what it's doing for me, it goes so quickly. A neck kink used to take a week sometimes with me, where
Yeah.
you can't move, you're on the side, you can't move. And now within, like, I can just appreciate what's happening, thinking, okay, it's asking me to slow down or something. And then I'll wake up the next day, it's completely gone. So it's incredible what I like. Everything you need is in you. And it's incredible if we tap into that and just surrender to it all, how it can push us forward and make everything better for us. So.
I love that, and I think that's really important to kind of communicate with our bodies. What is this about? What do you need? And again, it again goes back to that self-care thing, doesn't it? It's your body and having that relationship with your body and being in tune with yourself, which is something we all learn at Tire, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And that's again, it's all up here, right? It's all in how
Yep.
you're thinking about things. As long as you're not vilifying things and or having resistance on things, you can
Hmm.
change. Like, things can change with you.
And
So
that's it. It sounds like that trust, which Stream is always saying, trust your abundance, trust your issues, trust everything. There's a reason you can get through it, you can learn from it. And it sounds like you had trust in abundance and you learnt that quite early on.
Yes, and thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
Because,
You managed to cure the incurable.
yeah, no, it's amazing. I am so grateful for my journey and for what, every gift that it has brought me. And it's really made me, as I said, look at the world completely different. And even like seeing the little nuggets, even my parents had told me over the years that I didn't even realize was a thing. I've got an interesting story about my dad. He's what you would consider a man's man, right? No holds barred. Like he's just, he's old school. Um, and he never used an alarm clock through the years because somehow he knew that his body knew when to wake up. And when I was a teenager, I found this very strange because I thought, how is that possible? I needed an alarm clock. And I would, you hit the snooze and you wouldn't wake up anyways.
Yeah.
And as I got older, and now I practice that myself, by the way, as I got older, I realized he knew that to trust his body just knew when to wake up. He would say, I want to wake up at 7, and he would wake up at 7 every day. And so I started practicing that too. I do set an alarm just in case, right? You never know, right? Maybe I'm in a deep sleep and I don't pay attention. But
Yeah.
I've been practicing it, and every single time, and I laugh about it because it's like a game for me now, right? Where I will say, I set my intention when I'm going to sleep. I set all these, the intention sleep. I want to sleep very quickly, have a restful sleep, and all these things I say. And then I always at the end say, and I want to wake up at, I give it time, but I do set the alarm. And usually the alarm is set slightly longer. So if I say I want to wake up at 9 a.m., I will set my alarm for 9:10 just in case, because I want to give it a chance, like in the
Of
experimentation.
course.
And I got to tell you, Emery, like it's amazing because every single time I say I want to wake up at 8, I want to wake up at 9, whatever time it is, I literally open my eyes. I look at my watch. I wear a wristwatch in bed. It's
Yeah.
it's like I have to have a watch with me all the time. So I wear my wristwatch to bed. But anyways, so I look at my wristwatch and I'm like, every time it's like bang on the time I've asked. So I
Wow.
love that. And I learned that from my father, which I thank him for that. That I think it's amazing to play with that.
Wow. The power of intention setting. I'm going to try that because I'm terrible for sleeping through my alarm. So I'm personally going to take that nugget and I'm going to have a go because I never even thought of doing intentions for my body to do things like wake up on time, or, you could do it for going to sleep if you're somebody who overthinks when they put
Yes.
their head on the pillow. That would be a good thing, is set the intention to have that restfulness sleep. So what other intentions? You mentioned every morning you set your intentions. What can you explain to people who maybe don't do that, how you use your intention setting?
Yeah. So one of the things that's extremely important to me, and I keep referencing Taya because Taya has really it's reinforced so much for me and made me again very confident in all these tools that I've always used, and it's just yeah, it's just I don't even have to worry about anything anymore with this because I know it's again there's that confidence. I know
Yeah.
this all works. So it's very important to me to be attached to my source energy. That's like so important. If nothing else, it's that's I will strive for that. Even if I'm having really a really bad time, as long as I have my source energy connection, I know that I can conquer whatever is in front of me. So
Hmm.
when I start my day, I actually sit where I'm sitting right now because this is I'm a Reiki master, and I've done all these energy work and things. This has been what I've done for a living. And so this is the chair that I do my calls with, like my coaching calls or whatever. I usually am sitting here, and there's a lot of tools and things, tools of the trade around me. But this is my meditation chair. It's my quiet space. It's my sacred space. And so I will sit here in the morning, and first thing I do is a meditation. And during that meditation, the start of it, I start setting my intentions. And the very first intention is to stay up my spiral into joy and be attached to my source energy. So those are the first two intentions that I make. And then as I do my meditation, it's kind of like the source meditation, the source, seeing through the eyes of source that the stream of David has
Yeah,
provided. And he's
that's
given it
wonderful.
away over the years too. During the master classes, sometimes he
Mm.
has given that away as well. so it's accessible to a lot of people. He also you can buy his meditations as well. On his website you can buy them.
Yeah,
So
I bought all of them because they
yeah, I
are
know, they're
amazing.
good. I know. I've got a few of them too. They're amazing. So, anyways, sometimes I'll do the Source Connect and do that, but then I'll do my own silence after that. And then sometimes I'm in silence. And when I'm in silence, I do a lot of cleansing energy, right? Because you want to make sure that your energy is yours and that you're not picking up anybody else's energy. So I do that. And then, depending on what's happening that day, like if I am having a meeting, I will set an intention that the meeting goes well, that everyone understands each other, that, it all goes smoothly. For something like this, I do the same thing, that all the technical equipment works properly, that we're inspiring who needs to be inspired by our words. I will just set the intention for the day. Even driving, like if I'm going to be driving that day somewhere, just set the intention to make sure that it's a safe drive and that I'm able to get there efficiently too.
Mm.
That's an amazing itself too. I used to always use it in driving in the past, and I find that if I set an intention to get to my destination smoothly, safely. Sometimes I hate to say it, but quickly. I notice that every light is green. Like when you're going down, like I don't end up stopping at any red lights. It's like the universe just goes, "Okay, Sandra, we're gonna do that for you." And it's amazing how literally you could see. It's almost like the sea parts, and you could just
Yep.
just drive through it. It's incredible how just these little things that we do, like setting an intention, can make our life so much easier. And if you don't believe this, it sounds crazy, but it works. It works.
It it's like having a magic wand, and
It is.
we don't realize how powerful we are actually are as humans, of what we can actually do and what we can create. Because I use it the same as you. I might be just going into a meeting and I'll be like, I set the intention for this. Or if I've got a problem at work, and I'll be like, I set the intention for this to resolve and to actually go through how I want it to go through.
Right.
And I set the intention for my children to come home and be in a good mood. Things like that, and it works practically every time.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
it's amazing stuff.
Yeah. No, it really is. Yeah. Like I said, we have everything we need inside of us, really.
We
We
do.
just have to trust the process, trust ourselves, and tune in to our bodies and ourselves.
Absolutely. And I know before I started Satya, I had a lot more health problems. I was struggling with things. I used to have arthritis in my knee, which was really painful. Now I hardly feel it at all because I just focus more on positivity. And I do think that mindset that we discussed earlier and that self-care has changed the way my body is reacting.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I'm glad that you see it, right? That
I really do.
you notice it. Yeah. And it'll only get better. That's how I feel about it. As you continue your practice as well, it's gonna get better and better. And I'm excited to see where I'm gonna be in a year and how I'm gonna feel. And it's an incredible journey. And it keeps going. We learn and it keeps moving forward.
Oh, this was such an inspiring conversation, Sandra. I can see why you're a tire coach. You're going to literally change people's lives. It's been wonderful to talk to you.
Oh, you too, Anne Marie.
So thank you very much for joining us on our tire talk, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.